A lone cowboy offers shelter to a wounded Apache fugitive woman he finds dying in the desert. One stormy night changes everything, and by dawn, their lives are tied together forever. But danger is closing in, soldiers are hunting her, her own people have turned against her, and a secret growing inside her is about to rewrite both their destinies. Before this story ends, hearts will break, worlds will collide, and a rancher will hear the words that change his life completely. You let me sleep in your bed, rancher. Get ready, we're having Barbies. If you love emotional cowboy dramas, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Let's start this story. Samuel Whitlock guided his horse across the fadding desert plain, dust swirling around his boots as the last strip of daylight bled into purple dusk. He expected nothing unusual, another quiet ride home, another lonely night in a ranch house too big for a single man. But when his horse suddenly jerked sideways and snorted, Samuel felt the shift in the air. Something was out there. He dismounted slowly, hands sliding to his rifle, eyes sweeping the thorny brush. Then he saw her, collapsed near a boulder, barely breathing, covered in dirt and dried blood, a wounded Apache woman fighting for life. He crouched beside her and pressed 2 fingers to her neck, relieved to feel a faint pulse. Her skin was hot with fever, her breath shallow and trembling. When he gently lifted her shoulder, she gasped and her eyes shot open, sharp, wild, golden like a hunting hawk's. She tried reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Samuel raised both hands. "Easy," he whispered. "I'm not here to hurt you." She tried to speak, but only a broken word escaped her cracked lips. "Water." He pressed his canteen to her mouth as she drank desperately. The wind howled cold across the canyon, and Samuel knew instantly she wouldn't survive the night if he left her. He gathered her carefully into his arms, feeling how light and fragile she'd become. She didn't resist this time, her head collapsed against his chest, breath shaking like a dying flame. Samuel lifted her onto his horse and climbed behind her, keeping her steady as he kicked into a hard ride. Darkness thickened around them, coyotes howling somewhere in the hills, but he didn't look back once. When Samuel pushed open the ranch house door, the dogs barked sharply, then quieted, sensing his urgency. He carried the woman straight to his bedroom, the only room with clean sheets and enough warmth. The spare room was cluttered with tools and dust, and she needed safety, not storage space. Lantern light flickered across her bruises. Samuel cleaned her wounds with steady hands, stitched a deep gash along her ribs, and wrapped her in soft blankets. She never woke. Outside, the night scraped against the windows, but Samuel stayed beside her until exhaustion tugged him into sleep. At dawn, the soft creak of floorboards jolted him awake. The Apache woman stood upright, barefoot, hair wild, holding his rifle like it belonged to her. Samuel sat up slowly. "Put that down," he said calmly, as if he were talking to startled deer. Her eyes narrowed, sharp as flint. "Where am I?" Samuel stood carefully. "My home. I found you in the canyon yesterday. You were dying." She studied him deeply, her jaw tense, as if measuring whether truth lived in his voice. "White men do not help Apache women," she said bitterly. "I'm not most white men," he replied. She lowered the rifle only slightly. Her gaze drifted to the stitched bandage along her ribs, surprise flickering across her face as she realized someone had tended to her with care. "Why?" she asked quietly. Samuel shrugged. "Because you needed help." She held his eyes for a long moment, too long, like she wasn't used to being offered anything without a price. "I am hunted," she finally said, "by soldiers and by my own people." Samuel nodded slowly. "Figured trouble wasn't far behind you." Her shoulders stiffened, expecting judgment. Instead, he said softly, "You can stay until you're strong enough to leave." She hesitated, confusion flickering across her face. "You shelter a fugitive?" Samuel crossed his arms. "I shelter someone who needed saving." For the first time she faltered, the harshness in her expression easing like thawing ice. "My name is Talana," she said quietly. "I thank you." She didn't bow, didn't look away, but there was something honest in her tone. Samuel nodded back. "Name, Samuel Whitlock." She placed the rifle down on the table with deliberate calmness. "I will heal quickly, and when I leave, you will not see me again." Samuel didn't argue, but something inside him already knew she was wrong. Days passed, and Talana moved through the ranch with silent determination. She woke early, helped feed the animals, fetched water, and worked despite her injuries. She moved with a warrior's grace and a survivor's caution, nothing wasted, nothing careless. Samuel tried not to stare, but she was unlike anyone he'd ever met. She worked without complaining, without expecting comfort or thanks. In quiet moments, he caught her gazing toward the mountains as if listening for ghosts. He wanted to ask about her past, but something in her eyes warned him she carried stories carved with pain. One evening when the sky was washed in amber light, Samuel found her sitting on the fence, staring at the horizon with a heavy stillness. "You miss home?" he asked gently. She didn't look at him. "I miss what home used to be." He didn't speak. Silence often opened more doors than questions. After a moment she breathed deeply. "Soldiers raided our lands. They took people, burned what they could not take. One tried to claim me, I killed him." Her voice wavered, not from guilt, but from remembering. "My people blame me. The soldiers hunt me. I have no place." Samuel swallowed hard. He'd seen war tear people apart, seen injustice masquerade as law. He understood more than she expected. "You're safe here," he said simply. She looked at him finally, really looked, like no one had ever said those words to her and meant them. A slow breath left her chest, softer than before, and from that moment on, something unspoken connected them. She stayed closer, spoke more, helped him with the cattle. Asked him questions about ranch life, the stars, the sounds of the wind at night. Samuel found himself waiting for her voice, her footsteps, her presence beside him. Then came the night of the storm. Lightning split the sky and thunder roared like cannons. Samuel found Talana trembling near the door, her hands shaking, eyes wide with memories she could not outrun. He draped a blanket around her shoulders and she pressed her face into the fabric, fighting to control her breath. "You're all right," he whispered. "You're inside now." Rain hammered the roof with savage force. She whispered, "May I stay close? The thunder brings back what I cannot bear." He nodded, intending to offer the chair, but she stepped toward him instead, stopping inches from his chest. "You gave me safety," she whispered, "and I do not want to be alone tonight." Her eyes lifted, filled with a vulnerability she had never shown before. Samuel felt his heartbeat stumble, but he kept still, letting her choose whatever closeness she needed. What happened next wasn't rushed or spoken. It unfolded with quiet understanding, with two broken lives finding warmth in a night full of storm and fear. For the first time since she'd arrived, Talana slept without nightmares, breath steady, pain eased, shadows chased away by the presence of someone who meant her no harm. And Samuel knew, the moment dawn poured into the room, that nothing between them would ever be the same again. The morning after the storm, Talana stepped outside with her hair loose over her shoulders, the early sun turning each strand to dark copper. Samuel watched her from the doorway, unsure how close to stand, unsure what last night meant for her. She sensed him, turning with a calm expression that held neither regret nor apology, only quiet acceptance. "The storm is gone," she said softly. Samuel nodded. "You slept peacefully," she lowered her gaze, "because you were near." For a moment, silence settled between them, gentle and fragile. But peace on the frontier never lasted long, and danger was already on its way. Later that afternoon, the ranch dogs began barking sharply, an alarm they never ignored. Talana stiffened instantly. Samuel grabbed his rifle and stepped onto the porch, scanning the dusty horizon. A column of soldiers rode toward them, sun glinting off their metal buckles. Talana inhaled sharply. "They've found me," she whispered, her body tensing like a cornered animal. Samuel positioned himself in front of her, jaw clenched. "Get inside." But she didn't move. "No," she said firmly. "I will not run again. Running has taken everything from me. If they want to take me, they must face me standing." The soldiers dismounted in a perfect line, their captain swaggering forward with a sneer. "Whitlock," he said, "we're looking for an Apache fugitive. She's dangerous, violent, and property of the U.S. Army. Have you seen anyone suspicious?" Samuel's grip tightened on his rifle, but he kept his voice level. "Just me here." The captain smiled coldly. "Funny, our tracker saw fresh tracks leading straight to your door." Before Samuel could craft a lie, Talana stepped forward, chin high, eyes blazing with defiance. "I am here," she said. "Do not involve him." The captain's eyes gleamed with cruelty. Well, look at that." The little savage finally stopped hiding. Samuel moved instinctively, placing himself between them. "She's not going anywhere with you." The captain laughed. "She killed a soldier, and that makes her government property." Samuel's voice dropped low and dangerous. "She defended herself." The soldiers raised their rifles. Samuel raised his. The air grew tight enough to snap, but Talana touched Samuel's arm, her voice soft but steady. "Do not fight for me, they will kill you." His answer was immediate. "Let them try." The captain smirked. "Look at you, Whitlock, falling for a pretty face covered in war paint." Talana's eyes flashed with fury, but before she could speak, something shifted in the distance. Hoofbeats thundered from the ridge. 3 Apache riders appeared, one wearing the eagle-marked coat of a chief. They rode down with command, forming a line between Samuel's ranch and the soldiers. The captain stiffened. "What is this?" The chief's voice carried the weight of mountains. "Talana is no fugitive to us. She is the daughter of our fallen war leader. We have come to take her home." Talana's breath caught, tears filling her eyes for the first time. "You came for me?" The chief nodded once. "You survived what no one should survive. That is not shame, that is strength." The captain scoffed. "She killed one of my men." The chief met the captain's glare with steady calm. "Your man tried to take her as a slave. What she did was justice." Tension crackled like a live wire. The chief motioned toward his warriors. "Take her by force and we will fight, and a war will follow." The captain hesitated, his arrogance clashing with fear. Finally, with a bitter curse, he signaled his men, "Mount up, she's not worth the trouble." The soldiers retreated, dust trailing behind them until they vanished over the hills. Silence settled, broken only by the distant cry of a hawk. Samuel exhaled slowly, lowering his rifle as the weight of danger lifted. Talana stood between the two worlds, Samuel behind her, her tribe before her. The chief extended a hand. "You are needed, Talana, our people look to you now." She looked torn, her heart stretched painfully in both directions. Samuel stepped toward her, voice gentle. "You don't have to go if you don't want to." Her eyes softened. "I must. My tribe needs a future. They need someone who has seen both suffering and survival." She reached up, touching his cheek with trembling fingers. "But leaving you, it tears me apart." Samuel swallowed the ache in his chest. "You don't owe me anything." Talana shook her head. "I owe you truth." She took his hand and guided it to her stomach. Samuel froze as warmth pulsed beneath his palm. "I carry life," she whispered. "Your life, our life." His breath caught. Talana, her voice shook. "Get ready, rancher, we're having Barbies." For a heartbeat, the world went silent. No wind, no hoofbeats, no breath. Samuel felt the earth tilt beneath him. "Barbies," he repeated, stunned. Talana nodded. "Twins. I feel 2 heartbeats inside me." Joy and fear crashed through Samuel's chest like a flood. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Both of you, I'll protect you." She looked toward the mountains where her tribe waited. "My people need me, and our children, they will be the bridge that ends bloodshed. They will belong to both worlds." She cupped his face in her hands. "But I will return. When the time is right, I will come back for you, for us." The chief called her name softly, urging her. Tears traced down her cheeks. She kissed Samuel deep, desperate, full of promises no wind could steal. "Goodbye, Samuel Whitlock," she whispered. Samuel shook his head. "Not goodbye, just until you ride home." Her smile trembled. "I already did," she said. She mounted her horse, the wind lifting her hair like dark fire. Samuel watched her ride with her people toward the rising sun, one hand resting over the life growing inside her. He stood alone on the silent ranch, but his heart was no longer there. It rode with her, into a future no man could yet see. And somewhere beyond the mountains, Talana looked back once, placing her hand on her stomach as a fierce, hopeful smile touched her lips. Their story was not ending. It was only beginning. A promise sealed by love, storm, blood, and the children destined to unite 2 worlds.